Hoopla, warriors. Today is a good day for spaghetti. That's what I had for dinner, and it was delicious. Ever since I was a baby, I have loved spaghetti with tomato sauce. So, that was my dinner. Tomorrow, my dinner will be even better because tomorrow is Sandwich Day, our virtual dinner party where we all have a sandwich. So, I will get my delicious tofu sandwich tomorrow. I've been looking forward to it. And hopefully, the rest of you will bring sandwiches as well. And we will all post our sandwiches to Discord. I'll remind you again at the end of stream and try to remember to send out some kind of reminder tomorrow as well. So let's review the schedule before we get started. Yes, Aramis, that's the plan to start with that. Mondays are gaming. Wow, Ravenfield, it's like we had dinner together. Mondays are gaming. Yesterday I tried out RuneScape for the first time, original RuneScape. Tuesdays are ASMR cozy streams. We've just started last week with reading from the NIKKE wiki. And then Wednesdays are class with Dr. Export. This week will be History of Pirates. Thursdays are more gaming. Gonna get going more with RuneScape now that I've gotten through the tutorial, in which I probably learned nothing really. Retained nothing, I should say. And Fridays are NIKKE impressions. Today was the impression election day, so you all are voting on Yan, Lilywise, Sugar, or Wells. So far, Yan is easily in the lead. 1F, how about a meat sandwich? Hello, Joshua, glad to have you here. 1F's gonna have a meat sandwich tomorrow. Alright, everybody. Let's get going with, we're going to start on the wiki with Yunhwa's Bond story. Alright, Yunhwa, you ready? Bond story, episode 1. Instructor Yunhwa. Yeah, good luck with that, Jack Tricks. Guessing she'll be the last to go through the cycle. Yunhwa was an instructor for a group of newly created NIKKEs. While performing a roll call, she learned not all of the NIKKEs survived processing. So she dubbed them the Owls, and by the color of their uniforms, to better tell them apart. After Yellow Owl's response was too slow, she shared that Royal Road has the highest accidental conversion rate, since that's where she hails from. She continues to drill into her pupils that they are worthless livestock whose lives are lesser than humans, and they live to serve as their tools to help them reclaim the surface. She tells Grey Owl to be useful at least once before she dies, and after she hesitates, she agrees to do so. Awesome Yoshi, glad to have you here. 1F, it was not meant to be a euphemism, but I can see why you thought that. I meant like, if you have no bread, then use meat as the bread and put stuff in between. Both the commander and Ingrid were watching Yunhwa as she worked, and he didn't understand why she was acting so harsh. She assured him this was a necessary part of the process. NIKKEs are indoctrinated to believe they are weapons from creation, even if their heart won't agree with it, to sever them from their pasts. Deji2910, thanks for following on Twitch. Greatly appreciated. The protagonist doesn't think that's needed, and while Ingrid wished more people had the same view, this was what was required to be done. Hey, Gamma and Bravenwolf, glad to have you here. You're barely late. That's the idea, Awesome Yoshi. If you fall asleep, I've done my job. She assigns him to help Yunhwa as a human instructor. Even though he won't be doing too much, she was willing to answer his questions. His role will end after 2 nights and 3 days. The two will have to train the 6 owls through 2 battle simulations and a real exam on the surface. She expects 73% of them to perish during the exam. But given how Yunhwa is the leader of Absolute and a capable commander, she thinks their odds of survival will increase. As for why he was selected to join her, the commander's path differs from Yunhwa's, as in he's an idealist and she's a realist. His calm leadership style contrasts her charismatic brand of tutelage, which will hopefully help the two grow as leaders. He figures that Yunhwa's not thrilled with this arrangement, given how hostile she acts towards him normally, something Ingrid agrees with given she's not very welcoming to commanders, since she views them as incapable. Ingrid hopes that he will be the first one she will warm up to. Well, if he smells good, it's guaranteed to go well for him. Since she has shared all the details, Ingrid left as he moves to meet his new students. They are to follow his orders as necessary, even if it costs them their lives. Yunhwa also warns them she will personally execute any who cross the commander. Everyone then moves to begin the first simulation. Episode 2, Battle Simulation. The first simulation was conducted on the first floor of Elysian Tower, and from the get-go it was clear the owls had difficulties cooperating together. Grey Owl tried to protect Purple Owl, causing her to ignore Blue Owl's orders. Purple was spacing out because she forgot how the formation they needed to make was created. Yes, Nerdiconium, that's right. There's some weird word choices sometimes, and weird grammar. Ravenwolf, absolutely. It boosts your attractiveness. It's just like biological. Monitoring them in another room, Yunhwa was unimpressed by their performance. After berating the three for their mistakes that would have unalived their teammates if this was actual combat, she resets the simulation and the owls start again. She sees little prospects from them, but the commander feels she hasn't fully accepted her role as their teacher. She agrees and will have them train until it's time to get some rest. She tells Weakling to not interfere, but he still wants to help. She thinks his kindness and concern will do nothing but lead the owls to an early grave. Seeing as Yunhwa is determined to get them prepared on her own, he leaves. Weakling returns to the monitor room around 11 p.m. to discover Yunhwa reviewing the simulation footage. She's made some casual observations, like how Red Owl becomes more violent when nervous. And while Grey Owl has rough movements, she seems mentally fit and can take on bolder roles with Yellow Owl as her polar opposite. The commander alerts her of his presence, and she's surprised he hasn't left yet. Despite her insistence to be left alone, he wants to help. She still thinks that he is unable to complete even the simplest task she could possibly give him, and even if he did, he would probably make errors. Here, Bravenwolf, here's another tip. Smell good. Wear like a button-up nice shirt and then roll the sleeves up. You'll unalive them with that. Rolled up sleeves with a nice shirt, smell good. You'll destroy them. They will come to you. After being dismissed again, the commander decides to stand his ground so he can help the owls improve any way he can. He thinks of something he can do, whether it means investigating documents created by Yunhwa pertaining to the owls, or watching the footage himself to see if he notices anything. Given what is available to them, the commander thinks there's a way to have the owls function as an effective unit. Awesome, I'm not, but I see why you would think that. This is what viewers on the shopping day, viewers voted for this outfit. And we agreed it does look like it's absolute inspired. After mentioning that Purple and Red Owl seem to work well together, Yunhwa figures that the two of them and Grey Owl together would provide a nice balance for each other, only to realize Weakling figured that out. He also thinks Yellow and White Owl would work well together from what he gathered due to his past experiences working with others. Yunhwa's opinion of the commander slightly improves, but poses a test to see if he has genuine insight or if his analysis was a fluke. He would be sent into the simulation with the owls and die numerous times if he fails, a challenge he is willing to face. As for his assignment, of the 23 remaining videos Yunhwa has to analyze, she wants Weakling to view half of them by tomorrow and complete a report on the owls, addressing their strengths and weaknesses and how the latter can be compensated for. Using the data he collects, The owl's strategy will be modified accordingly. If she approves of his work, she will have him do more. Multiple sleepless nights for a NIKKE is no problem, but is strenuous for a human. Despite that, he thinks he can manage. Pleased with his resolve, she promises to hold nothing back. Episode 3, An Unforeseen Fate. Ravenfield. Roundtable Talk will be out on Friday for Tier 3 members, and Sunday or Monday for everyone else, probably. Still waiting to finish the ending, depending on Shift Up's release of information. Despite claiming to be able to operate without sleep, the commander wakes up the following morning realizing he overslept. He was even more surprised to see Ingrid, who was here to see how progress with the owls is going. He is convinced the next simulation will end up better than the first. Yunhua arrived to check up on Weakling, only to be shocked by Ingrid's appearance. She was disappointed with the first simulation, and warned that if the owls don't show improvement, she will send them to perform other tasks. While Yunhua believed that meant they would be sent to harvest NIKKE parts from the Outer Rim, or to procure resources from poisonous mines, Ingrid meant that they would not be placed in combat. The leader of Absolute is determined to prevent that from happening, and came up with some solutions that should demonstrate the owl's full potential. To see it in action, the second battle simulation begins. Yes, that's true, Ravenwolf. Dear Feather, they're supposed to be able to. Guess it depends on which version of the lore. Shift Up can't decide how Nymph works. Yes, Ravenwolf, exactly. The owls have held their own for a while during this situation, and it appears the suggestions made from their teachers were paying off. Suddenly, a massive explosion erupted, and those in the monitoring room lost visual contact with the owls. The protagonist worries the worst has happened, but Yunhua has faith in them. Contacting her teacher on her walkie-talkie, Purple Owl informs them their team's mission was a success. All enemies are cleared, and all of the owls survived. Yellow Owl also called in with the same results. Ingrid was very impressed with the work Yunhua had done. She admitted to not being solely responsible for their success, and confessed that Weakling proved to be useful. Something he did not expect her to say. Though she didn't like the happy grin on his face, she knew they would have to work even harder tonight, so the owls would be ready to brave the surface, I think is what that was supposed to say. He was pleasantly surprised Yunhua was willing to receive his aid, and he was ready for another sleepless night. Around 11 p.m. that night, the two instructors were busy working in the monitor room, after the owls went to sleep. Hey, Mexican Zubat, good to see you. Braven Nymph does whatever the plot needs it to do. It could probably do time travel at this point, which is how Wells will become canon. They have 25 videos to cover, stretching from the owl's trek from the 5th to the 15th floors of Elysian Tower, along with the topographical data of the practice battle location that also needs to be examined. She also informs them neither of them will lead the owls during the exam, since the government refused her request because they felt there is no use for an operator when training NIKKEs. Since they had plenty of work that needed to be finished by the next morning, they split up the labor and did their tasks. After an hour, the only noise in the room that could be heard was the sound of typing. Yunhua was focusing with her full concentration, and seeing her resolve, he wishes to do the same. This lasts until he loses his concentration again, this time due to being tired from sleep deprivation. Yunhua took a break from her work and shared a bit of her past with Weakling. She never liked group assignments, since she felt her professor was trash, before correcting herself since she was the protagonist's senior. While the two may be stuck babysitting now, Yunhwa had to sharpen her skills on her own to realize her dream of reclaiming the surface. She has suppressed that vision, but has put in time and effort to make it a reality. Though she still considers the protagonist a weakling, he's far more competent compared to the others she was forced to work with. Despite that, she admits to not hating working with others. Things changed when she became a commander after her 20th mission. She took a squad with some experience to the surface on a recovery mission. Her team failed to listen to her instructions, deriding her as a newbie that was just hired after graduating the military academy. They all died as a result within less than 10 minutes, and Yunhwa was left to fend for herself in a Rapture's lair. She struggled to survive until she was incinerated by a beam cannon. What was left of her corpse was retrieved by NIKKEs and was sent to Elysian, which is how she became one herself. Weakling felt what happened to her was horrible and apologized for reopening old wounds. She had no issues with telling him about herself, since she felt she wasn't special as a human. She admitted to sharing this information so the commander would stay awake, since they need to be thoroughly prepared for the exam tomorrow. Their talk was enough to revitalize Weakling, and the two continued to work. Episode 4, The Day of the Real Test. On the day of the Owl's exam on the surface, Yunhwa informed them of their assignment. The 6 have to reach the lab alive. 6 drones will be monitoring them, so she and the commander can keep an eye on them via real-time video feed, as they're monitoring them in a tent further away. Ingrid is also watching them from a separate location. She warns them that if things take a turn for the worse, they will be on their own. For the next 3 hours, the owls will have to use what they've learned to the best of their abilities. After sending them on their way, Weakling still questioned if the owls could succeed. Yunhwa believes that the 2 of them did the best they could, and if they perish because they can't learn, then they didn't deserve to live in the first place. The first hour proved to be uneventful, with things going according to plan. The owls eliminated 10 raptures with an average damage rate of 9%. At this current trajectory, the 6 have a high chance of all surviving. After the second hour, Yunhwa grew bored, as nothing significant happened. Around half an hour before the exam was supposed to end, Yunhwa noticed something very troubling. She discovered a Lord-class rapture on the edge of one of the drone feeds, something that's not supposed to be part of the exam. She figured it would be attracted by the scent of the owls, and she knew that if they had an operator and her request wasn't denied, the rapture would have been taken care of beforehand. The squad is nowhere near qualified to take it on. Things take a turn for the worst, as the owls panic since they don't know what to do, with Purple having had her arm shot. Fortunately, Weakling has a plan to save them. Brave Wolf. They also they're trying to make themselves attractive to the commander, I guess. Though they can't interfere directly with otherwise the owls would fail, they can still give them instructions from the tent. While Yunhwa commands the owls, the protagonist will use the drones to calculate a path to lead the owls and the rapture to their location, so she can eliminate it herself. Isn't that direct interfering? What? Even though the drones are stuck at fixed location, she knows how to adjust them so they have a better view. He learned how from his time in the military academy. After throwing another of her insults at the commander, she admits he came up with a great plan. Yoshi, probably not tonight. I'd have to start with it maybe next week because Overzone's pretty long. Oh, gotcha, Braven. After moving drone number 1 to where the raptures are concentrated, Yunhwa notices some of the 10 raptures are energy types, something the 2 can use. After the owls cause a large enough distraction while also causing the building housing the raptures to collapse, The Lord-class Rapture was injured and tricked by a decoy, giving them an additional 10 seconds. Moving drone number 2... What? Moving drone number 2 to the laboratory's entrance, not only has the number of Raptures grown, but there is a clear path to lead them to the tent. After the owls took their positions, drone number 3 was moved to focus on the Lord-class Rapture. The mines placed by Yellow prevent it from changing course. Once everyone was within range, Yunhua sniped the Rapture, causing an explosion to engulf it. With that taken care of, Ingrid calls in to report that the test is over and the owls have passed and are now full-fledged NIKKEs. The protagonist was surprised she was monitoring them too and was proud they were able to work together. The owls praised their instructor for her help and for saving their lives. Sorry, OCD getting in my way. But she didn't think she deserved any credit since all she did was clear an obstacle that shouldn't have been present. Weakling clarified her point as her not doing anything special. Even if that was the case, the owls will never forget what Yunhua has done for them, and bowed to show their respect. They wanted to see her again in the Ark, but she instructs them to head to the elevator so they can be repaired. Despite how irritated she seemed, they knew their instructor cared about them. Upon reaching the elevator, the two sent the owls on their way. They didn't join them since Yunhua had a personal matter she needed the protagonist's help to deal with. The owls depart, confident Yunhua will be fine, and they promise to send her letters. As to where they're going, she has no intentions of telling him anything yet. Episode 5, Yunhua's Dream. After the owls successfully reached the Ark, the commander follows Yunhua to a still unknown destination for still unknown reasons. It did seem like she was asking him for a favor, something that someone as prideful as her would have difficulty doing. Braven, no, those were Eagle and Falcon. In truth, Yunhua brought them to the place where she and her first squad perished. A meaningless commander suffered a preventable death because her idiot subordinates failed to listen. Though she thought she would feel bad coming here, she's actually a bit relieved. From their time together, Yunhua discovered a spark of hope that her dream can be realized, albeit not in the way she intended. After observing Weakling while working together, she admits he demonstrated toughness, judgment, and analytical skills that she deems acceptable. While other commandos hold the view that NIKKEs are nothing but cannon fodder, something she still doesn't entirely believe is untrue. She didn't expect to see someone who was in her position perform as well as he did. In essence, Yunhua formally acknowledges the protagonist not only as her commander, but as a colleague that she shares a similar goal with. She mentions that this praise will only stick so long as he maintains this level of excellence moving forward, and he continues on his current path. The protagonist was definitely surprised she would speak so highly of him, due to believing she hated him. As for their past transgressions, Yunhua apologizes for misjudging him due to her experiences with other commanders. If she had truly gotten to know him for who he was before, the two may have grown closer as a result. Despite that, she's willing to make up for it in the future. After staring at the ruins for a while, Yunhua was ready to return. But Weakling was willing to wait for her to mourn if she needed to. Because of him, she no longer has any regrets, and is optimistic about things to come. Once the two reached the elevator, they were greeted by the other members of Absolute, Emma and Vesti. While they were surprised to see the commander with their leader, Emma teased that they came to congratulate her for a job well done, before revealing that since a Lord class rapture was discovered, a Tyrant class rapture is probably resting nearby. So they had to head back where the two came from to end it. Emma asked to borrow Yunhua and apologized if they had any plans before this, but he was fine in postponing things until she came back, something she had no intentions of joining. After Emma tried to break the ice between them, Absolute headed out. While on her walk, Emma was curious about how things went. Yunhua admitted to not hating her time as an instructor, something that came as a surprise to her. She figured the two would be arguing constantly, but Vesti believes that's not something the commander would do. Yunhua wanted to finish the mission as quickly as possible, which caused Emma to complain she treated her pupils better than her own squad mates. Emma felt like there was nothing to talk about, but after the two brought up Weakling and how nice of a person he was, Yunhua began to blush and tried to hide it. Emma easily picked up on it and suggested if she liked him so much, she should give him a warm farewell. For a brief moment, Yunhua slightly turned her head back and mouthed something to Weakling. Goodbye, and thank you, Commander. All right. Let's see. What shall we do next, friends? What shall I pull up? Overzone's too long to start right now. Goddess Fall page is extremely short. What else? Emma Bond story, alright. And do... where'd it go? Here it is. Emma's Bond story. Sorry, Blue Tut. Raven beat you there. Bond story, episode 1, Nightmare. One of the worst things the commander can do is reveal whatever is suppressed in his heart in the worst form possible. This can happen at many times. Hold on. Excuse me. Sorry guys. We can do Vesti next, Raven, if there's time. We'll complete Absolute. Whew, dizzy. Thank you, Foe. Whew. Whether it's when Neon gets too ambitious with her firepower and breaks something, when Maxwell makes him the subject of one of her experiments, when dealing with another of Yunhua's long tirades, when he gets chastised by Exia for being a bad game they are playing together, or in this most recent case, when he became tortured by the Wardress Nikke's Uni and Mihara because of Suen's orders. Trilith, we can probably do Goddess Fall because it's super short. But right now we're doing Emma's Bond story. Having to deal with a lot of stress, anxiety, and pain, the protagonist's back is cold and sore. He tried to read the message Suen sent him after Wardress attacked him, but the chat was empty. Emma enters his room since she was aware that the counters in Absolute were going to be performing a joint operation together. Upon seeing him, however, she's worried about him since he looks tired and sick. She's aware that though they spend most of their time tending to the Nikkes that serve them, commanders have little time to care for their own well-being. She offers to make him something to alleviate his fatigue, and he agrees to try it. After combining spices and ingredients in his kitchen with items she found on the surface, she creates a special fatigue-reducing milk that will make him feel better, at the cost of his pantry now being in ruin. She informs him he may need to chew on something to help him swallow it, and though it may smell like a harvester's breath, she assures him that his condition will improve after he drinks it. He ultimately decides to drink it to appease Emma, only to learn it was made with expired milk and seafood. This causes him to collapse, with Emma confused as to how this could happen. Yeah, he would die. He awakens from his coma later that night, only to have his view blocked by something big, dark, and round in front of his face. They're Emma's boobs. After touching it, he realized he was feeling Emma's chest, though she didn't know that what he was intending to touch Him being able to do so at all was a sign he was healing. She apologizes for causing him to pass out earlier, but is relieved that he's feeling better. What do you think they use for NIKKE boobs? Silicone? Though falling to sleep is not a usual side effect of the milk, she thinks that him being overworked and stressed were the cause of it. She worries for his overall well-being and asks him to take better care of himself. He informs her that he still has work that needs to be done, and has things to do like prepare in case he's sent on an emergency mission, or maintain the health and well-being of those he cares about. She understands his position, but she warns him that unless he takes some time for himself, it will become more difficult for him to do those things. Gross, Bravenwolf, dear God. That's sick. She understands his She even insinuates that there may be a point where if he becomes so reckless, he may not be able to move at all afterwards. He agrees to try to relax for his own sake, and Emma shares that if he ever needs her assistance, he is free to contact her. To help him get some rest, she will allow him to continue to use her lap as a pillow. Lap, right. After leaving a report he needs to read next to him, she takes her leave and wishes him a speedy recovery. He attempts to get back up, but is unable to move. After thinking about what Emma has said, he was about to go to sleep, when he is messaged by Suin again, demanding that he and the counters need to head to the surface. Episode 2, A Sense of Guilt. Turns out, Suin's request was to raid a Rapture's den for some materials for Matisse and Anise are not happy about it. Wait, for Matisse and Anise is not happy about it. There we go. Oh, thank you, 1F. Nanomachines. Yes, the nanomachines give the jiggles. That makes sense. Shifty detects a high-energy reactor ahead, along with a Lord-class Rapture. Neon was ready to unleash one of her most powerful displays of firepower yet. Rappy identifies 13 Raptures they have to face. If this was Epic of Gilgamesh, it would be 12 Raptures they have to face. 3 Highway class and 10 Servant class. Sensing they are clearly outmatched, the commander proposes a retreat. Ah, my eye. The counters agree with that plan, and Anise wants to make Missilis pay for putting them through this. Since they couldn't outrun the Raptures, they can only stand and fight. Yeah. Deerfeather, it's really inappropriate, though. You're not really supposed to do that, right? But I mean... At least I guess he doesn't have to worry about STDs. After the battle was over, the counters are forced to head to NTDs. The counters are forced to head to the repair center to see Mary. Anise and Neon were damaged by 75% and 90% respectively. While their brains are intact, everyone else is in critical condition. That means the 2 of them can be rescued, but it will take some time since she lacks the parts to fix them. Their consciousness needs to be removed for the next 3 to 4 days. During this time, she suggests that he take a vacation to recover since she can tell he's unwell, even if that means staying with her in the hospital. The 2 argue about whether or not he's fine, but she agrees to respect the protagonist's wishes and he registers as their caretaker. Yeah, Nerdiconium, that makes sense. Tetanus, that's what his tetanus shot's for. I mean, being on the surface, he'd definitely need a tetanus shot anyway. 7 hours later, Rappy was surprised he has not left the center and worries he wouldn't get enough sleep. He tells her that he will rest here until the 2 wake up. Rappy can understand why he feels guilty about what happened to them, but they need a few days to recuperate. She was initially going to join him, but he realized that would complicate any future endeavors if they were both inoperable. She asks her commander to go home and get some rest, but he tells her he can't do that. Later on, he stands by his fallen comrades and apologizes to them yet again. Remembering again what Emma said before, he tries to get in touch with her. She can tell something's wrong from his response. He nods off not long after. 5 hours later, it's almost dawn when the commander awakens to hear someone singing a lullaby. Episode 3, Daydream. Unaware of who was singing to them, the protagonist assumes it is Emma, who has rushed over to see him after she got worried from his last message. He apologizes for making her concerned about him, but she's willing to forgive him if she answers a question she has. She asks why he pushes himself so hard, and that is because everyone is sacrificing themselves both figuratively and literally for his goals. He clarifies he doesn't want any other NIKKEs to end up like Marion. She had heard about how Marion was corrupted, and while she understands why he feels the way he does, she informs him most commanders believe that putting trauma behind them and moving forward is how they grow. He refuses to follow their example because he values his NIKKE companions, her included, and doesn't view them as weapons like most commanders seem to. Emma and the other NIKKEs appreciate all he does for them and are moved by his sentiments, so they are willing to return the favor, even if it costs them their lives. The counters share his repulsion to being Suen's lapdogs, and his dreams to reclaim the surface. After Emma also assures him that she feels the same, she wants him to understand how she feels. Despite making many mistakes, Emma tries to improve herself. Even with all her flaws and mistakes, she's as happy as can be. Wanting him to experience that too, she suggests that the two go somewhere where he can release his daily fatigue, spiritual trauma, and the weight of life. Well, there's an evidence-based way to do that Emma can help him with. Though he's still worried about his friends, he thinks it's okay if he joins her for the day. She hopes he's ready to leave his worries behind him tomorrow. As for now, she caresses his head and he closes his eyelids while she continues her lullaby. Who says eyelids? The two travel to a steamy place on the surface, which turns out to be a hot spring. Emma plans to service him today, to relieve him of his pain and anxieties and refresh his thoughts. She thinks the special minerals that are found here will help out with that. The plan is for her to give him the full body treatment, and then for him to soak in the hot spring. While he was worried they could be attacked by raptures at any moment, she reveals she has eliminated all of them in the area. He agrees to focus on relaxing, and allows her to work her magic. In order to receive the treatment and to bathe in the hot spring. Yeah, massage, that's what they call it, Ravenwolf. He proceeds to lie down on his stomach with towels covering him. Well, it's not going to work that way, guy. Oh wait, I missed some of it. In order to receive the treatment and to bathe in the spring, he needs to remove his clothing so as to not get them wet. He is willing to at least remove his shirt so she can massage him. Bro, you're doing this all wrong. Thanks 6R7 for following on Twitch. Sorry if I didn't say your name right, but thank you for following anyway. He proceeds to lie down on his stomach with towels covering him. Bro, you need to roll over. She attempts to apply some oil on him and combine it with some minerals she has and some water. Well, that's going to water it down. That's not going to work. But is having trouble handling things. After hearing a crashing sound behind him, she admits she accidentally dropped the oil bottle and her clothes are covered in it. She herself is unharmed and is feeling fine, aside from now being sticky all over. She thought she was unable to perform aromatherapy at first, but there appears to be some left. She then proceeds to massage his neck and shoulders. Despite her hands slipping and his shaking reactions are concerning to her, he is really enjoying the massage. She apologizes for messing up so much because this is the first time she's performed this on a man. Wait, does that mean she's done it on... Don't get excited, guys. After that Christmas event, we all know hot spring episodes don't go anywhere in NIKKE. After his back is done, she tells him to lay on it so she can do his front. He notices he is stiff all over, for God's sake, enjoying his armpits. Especially his armpits. Yeah, right, his armpits. What he admits are itchy. Emma was surprised to learn the commander is ticklish and takes this as consent to continue. She enjoys making him blush, which makes her want to bully him even more. After she's fully finished, he is allowed to get up, but finds it hard to move. She figures the air is too hot and is making him dizzy. After 10 minutes, the protagonist tells Emma that he enjoys her treatment. She admits to having practiced her techniques on the other Absolute members, which gets him excited. Yunhua and Vesti, until they ran away whenever she mentions it. Now that he has finished the massage, the next thing for him to do is bathe in the hot spring. While he wants to soak it in alone, she decides to join him to continue his treatment, to his shock. Episode 5, Do You Need Help? The next morning at the repair center, Anise and Neon have made a full recovery, and their broken parts were replaced. Neither are suffering from side effects. They were glad to see the commander again, but were surprised to see how much stronger he looks, and how much his skin glows. I didn't know that was good for your skin. While he secretly felt bad for not being able to take them with him, Rappy asks her squad mates to stop asking questions. He did mention going to a hot place on the surface. Neon took his response to mean he went to study firepower, but Anise knew otherwise. Raven, this is why we do summaries and not actual readings, because actually playing these scenes would get me banned. After the two were discharged, the protagonist returned to his room. The amount of paperwork he has to fill out during his break increased, and he begins to take care of it on his computer. While he works, he remembers a conversation he and Emma had while they were bathing together. She was giving him a massage that can only be done while in water. After trying to loosen something on him that was very stiff, he confesses to wanting to repay her for all her help. She already finished. She took this to mean that he wants to massage her, but she wants him to continue to relax and unwind. From then on until they left, he had a good feel of Emma's oil-covered body. With his mind full of buzzing distractions, he realizes he can no longer focus on work. He decides to take a shower to help clear his mind. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. At her suggestion, he attempts to perform the treatment on himself. Oh, wow, okay. Nobody wants to see that. But he has neither the ability nor the skill to do it on his own. Someone then proceeds to knock on his bathroom door to deliver a report to him. After hearing what he was saying in the shower, she offers to lend him a hand. The person reveals that she had more time to practice on her teammates and is more proficient than before. Ready to service the protagonist, the two enter the shower together. For goodness sake. Alright, let's read Goddess Fall since we have time and it's very short. I don't know if we'd have time for Vesti, but I'll bring it up real quick. See, Vesti, NIKKE, WIKI. Let's see. Oh. I don't see a Bond story. Oh, give me a second here. Ow. Vesti, where your story? There it is. Alright, looks like we will have time for this. And then we'll do Goddess Fall. Dirt Feather, one of the things you want to do with tofu, if you have time, freeze it, defrost it, then squeeze out the water. Gives it a better texture, and it will soak up any marinade you want within minutes. So that's probably one of the best tips. Alright, Vesti Bond Story, Episode 1, Friendless Vesti. The protagonist and Neon are watching a Tetra TV program explaining how to make friends, with color commentary from Anise off to the side. While Neon tries and fails to exercise the tips from the program, the protagonist's phone buzzes. Vesti texts the protagonist to talk with him about something. But it turns out she's texting in the middle of a firefight on the surface, leading to all manner of typos. The protagonist agrees to speak with Vesti later, wishing the absolute NIKKE stays safe. Meanwhile, Neon and Anise are flipping through other channels, having tired of the friend-making program. Some time later, Anise and Neon have left the room, silence permeating the protagonist's quarters. Looking over Vesti's profile before their meeting, the commander wonders what sort of problems would plague a NIKKE in the strongest squad of Elysian, if not all the Ark, let alone one whose combo scores are S++, almost all across the board. The door opens and Vesti steps inside, her mousy demeanor entirely on display. The protagonist leads her to a seat and offers some tea to calm her down. The Absolute stiffens as the man notices her nervousness peeking through, and admits she needed to see someone who would seriously consider what she believes is a sensitive topic. With some difficulty, Vesti cuts to the heart of the matter. Friends. Seeing the protagonist's confusion, Vesti elaborates that she doesn't have anyone to do any sort of friendship-type activities with, like hanging out on the weekend or pajama parties. Absolute doesn't count, since she considers them more like family. Emma isn't around on weekends, and Yunwa's character is not the sort who would frolic in a pajama party. I'm sure you guys want that story. Despite Rappy being an old friend Vesti would love to reconnect with, she'd rather not trigger Yunwa's disdain for the counter's leader. As such, Vesti's hope was that the protagonist could tutor her on how to make friends. His plan A is to bring up the video Neon was watching as an instructional aid. After watching the video, Vesti expresses her doubts about being able to do this. To her, fighting raptures and demolishing her enemies is far simpler than trying to make people smile or even just talking to them. The protagonist's calm confidence does help buoy Vesti's anxiety. However, an aspect that far too many people have given her grief about, along with her tendency to cry and stutter. With renewed vigor, Vesti and the protagonist plot for hours on how the former can make friends, and decide to execute the plan tomorrow. Right on time, Blue Tap. My watch went off at like the exact moment you said that. Episode 2, Friendship War. In a cafe, citizens peer and mutter over the presence of Vesti, the Reaper of Absolute, and pondering if the Raptures are about to commence an invasion of the Ark. Engrossed in this gossip, the protagonist forgets he's in the middle of an outing with Vesti herself. The Absolute is unconcerned with any threats to her friend-making, having brought her weapon to dispose of any impediments. What's more nerve-wracking for Vesti is her impending meeting with whoever the protagonist arranged for her in an effort to make friends. Remembering the planning and tips from the day before, Vesti promises to do her best. The person the protagonist arranged to meet turns out to be xeali, NIKKE of Protocol, and gamer extraordinaire. The hacker is less than pleased to learn the gaming friend Noob promised is none other than a member of Absolute, and Sid Absolute's less than satisfactory answers serve to tell xeali that Vesti is a non-gamer, and the hacker departs from the cafe. Distraught over the initial failure, Vesti's considering throwing in the towel, but the protagonist convinces her to try again. Foe, you want one of those massages where they're standing on your back from Ingrid? What are those called? Are those shiatsu? No, or is that the Thai massage? I can't remember what it's called. Lost my place. The second attempt is with Neon, who's excited to meet what she dubs a master of firepower. Explosion! The two Elysian NIKKEs get into discussion over how Neon can get better at firepower, but Vesti's statements that unintentionally brag about her innate talent torpedo the conversation. If anything, Neon seems to have suffered emotional damage from the sheer disparity between herself and Vesti, and the sense of inadequacy compels her to leave. Eyes brimming with tears, Vesti wonders just what she's doing wrong when trying to talk with people. Yeah, Nerdiconium, there's a lot of weird grammar and phrase and weird choices in this. In the fan wiki, I've noticed. I don't know if it's like a second language thing or what. Episode 3, Isolated Vesti. Sometime later, Emma is messaging the protagonist. Ever since the botched friend-making, Vesti has locked herself in her room and refuses to come out. since the tiniest absolute refuses to see her or Yunhua, Emma hopes the protagonist can come and sort this situation out. Outside Vesti's room, the protagonist meets with Emma, who provides him with a handmade meal to give to Vesti since she's not eaten anything since returning from the excursion. The protagonist knocks on the door a few times, eventually getting a sniffled response from Vesti, who initially assumes it's Emma again before noticing who the visitor really is. Vesti's initial concern is anything the protagonist might have heard from Neon and Exia, calling her conceited and arrogant behind her back. The protagonist assures Vesti this isn't the case, and convinces the Absolute to let him in while she spews apologies about her incompetency at making friends. I know how that be, Vesti. The protagonist wonders where this self-loathing comes from, and it turns out beratement over being a stuttering wreck is all Vesti's ever heard since childhood. Before she became a NIKKE, all of Vesti's classmates picked on her for stuttering and seeming like an aloof loner. Vesti had hoped that with all the strong, reliable people surrounding her after she became a NIKKE, she'd be able to change as a person. But after the failed attempt to make friends, it only proved to her that nothing had changed. The protagonist tries to reassure Vesti, but the Absolute refuses to budge. Just a few days ago at Royal Road, Vesti met a few of her old classmates, who immediately went back to their favorite game of pick on Vesti. Alright, go ahead and chop their heads off, Vesti. It took all of Vesti's restraint to not unalive them where they stood. NIKKE restrictions be damned. I don't know, I think that would have been something worth doing. Those reprobates even had the gall to say her squad didn't count, goading her to show them she had friends outside of Absolute. But at that moment, Vesti couldn't get angry or even cry as she normally would, because they were right in a sense. She has no one outside of her squad to connect with, and so she went to the protagonist to get help. With the earlier failures setting a bad precedent, she's only drawn further into herself. The protagonist asks Vesti what their relationship is if she really has no friends. A question that Vesti interprets as him trying to appease her. The protagonist affirms that he wants to be Vesti's friend, a prospect she eventually relents to. Even if she can't be as colorful as the protagonist's comrades encounters, she can at least protect him with all her might if he asks. The two pinky swear on their friendship, Vesti giggling in muted delight. A few days later, the two of them are planning to stop at Royal Road and make new memories as friends to overwrite Vesti's bad ones. Episode 4, Avenge. The two go out to Royal Road and deliberate on whether to go see a movie or eat lunch. Why not both? Since it's past lunchtime already, they decide to go to a movie. Emma recommends the ever-popular Archranger, while Yunhua suggested a movie called Lisa Belle, which ostensibly is full of cute dolls. Vesti held an interest in Lisa Belle since she'd never heard of it before, so the two agree to see the movie, and Vesti excitedly steps into the theater. A moment later, and Vesti is decidedly not on board with this movie. Perhaps as a bit of a prank on Yunhua's part, Lisa Belle turned out to be a horror movie, which Vesti is not too fond of. Vesti burrows into the protagonist's chest, who holds her close. The littlest Absolute bemoans her leader pulling one over on her like this, but the protagonist's presence helps her calm down as the two remain close for the rest of the movie. You guys would totally do this to me. Later in a cafe, Vesti found the movie more fun than she expected in hindsight. Likely because the protagonist was there with her. But before Vesti can say any more, two strangers start gossiping about Vesti being a crybaby. It seems like her old bullies haven't grown one iota from their childhood, continuing to make fun of her. Me too, Braven. If anything, it's gotten worse since she became a NIKKE, telling her to go fight on the surface because their taxes go into NIKKE maintenance. I'm sorry, but I stand by what I said. Go ahead and unalive them, Vesti. Vesti's frozen shuddering is the last straw, and the protagonist demands the two apologize. The argument escalates as the two try to rationalize the protagonist's defense as protecting his favorite toy, while the protagonist asserts Vesti is his friend. The conflict culminates in the playboy slugging the protagonist in the face, sending him to the floor. Vesti watches in shock as the protagonist goes down while the playboy is confused. Apparently he didn't even hit the protagonist that hard, but the man in question is acting like he's taken a critical blow. The protagonist stops Vesti from contracting Seraphim and simply gives her an order. Deal with the bullies however she sees fit, with the condition of keeping it to a certain level of justified self-defense. Vesti is reluctant to exert force, even non-lethally, on humans, but the protagonist assures her it's self-defense, and he'll write an apology letter if any problems arise. Orders received, Vesti approaches the bullies and exercises some very vindictive self-defense. As the bullies faint from the intimidating display of violence, Vesti lets out a giggle, a feeling of liberation coursing through her. Episode 5, Friendship or... The protagonist's phone buzzes with a message from Yunhua. It would appear Vesti has been much more emotional since her outing with the protagonist, and Yunhua is asking him to take responsibility. Later at the NIKKE dorms, Yunhua directs the protagonist to Vesti's room and makes it clear that she does not like him, but is willing to tolerate his presence so long as he can handle whatever's happened to Vesti. The protagonist knocks on the door and Vesti tells him it's unlocked. The door slides to reveal Vesti at her desk, hunched over something. While the littlest absolute thinks it's Emma that stepped in, the protagonist peers over to see Vesti is writing in a diary. Getting closer, he can even see the words she's writing down. The entry is styled like a letter to another person, detailing how liberated Vesti feels to have finally ground her bullies into the dirt and put her past behind her. Though she did not feel empty after getting her revenge. Though she did feel empty, Vesti found it filled up by her new friend, the protagonist, but now a different feeling plagues her. He's going to tell her the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Vesti's mind is awash in thoughts about the protagonist, percolating in her brain every waking and sleeping moment. She wants to spend every moment she can with him by her side and ponders over whether this emotion is what friendship is like. Vesti snaps her diary shut and snaps at Emma not to peer over her diary entries. Upon noticing her snooper is actually the protagonist, Vesti screams with enough volume to startle the man and send him tumbling to the floor. After apologizing for the scare, Vesti asks the protagonist if he saw what she was writing. She can tell that he did, which caused her to become extremely embarrassed. The commander tries to calm her down by promising to keep what she wrote a secret, but that wasn't really her concern. Vesti asks the protagonist for his thoughts about how she's feeling, pondering if this is a result of their close friendship. While she was surprised he didn't exactly feel the same way, and she became sad because of it, the protagonist believes she's feeling something else entirely. This caused her to realize that she had fallen in love with the commander, causing her to cry. At that moment, Yunhua and Emma burst into Vesti's room, concerned for their squad mate. Yunhua berates the protagonist for making things worse and for snooping on someone's diary. Vesti notices the two were eavesdropping on them, with Yunhua confessing she's been listening since the very start, and Emma joining her after hearing them talk about love. Overcome with a sudden swell of rage, Vesti whips out her rocket launcher and begins firing like mad, forcing everyone to run lest they be turned into ground chuck. The protagonist notes he'll have to clear the air with Vesti, right after he makes sure to get out of this alive. Excuse me, sorry. That's funny, foe. Alright, we'll read real quick. Goddess Fall. It's very short. I don't think there's a longer one, is there? I don't see anything longer. It's just this little summary. Just the soundtrack is the other option. Some time after mankind was forced into the Ark, human perception of NIKKEs changed from goddesses of victory to expendable tools. Not helping the matter was the increasing optimization of NIKKE production, meaning manufacturers could churn out parts and even entire units with minimal resource consumption and incredible speed. Plus the central government seemingly actively working to stifle any kind of sentiment related to giving NIKKEs human rights. Oh, you heading out, Bravenwolf? I've got just a few minutes, but good night. This suppression has gotten so bad that people who try and advocate for NIKKE rights have been labeled terrorists and suffer legal persecution. Despite NIKKEs being made to look and act like people, most humans living in the Ark saw NIKKEs as tools at worst, and uncanny valley at best. This is the second time I've read that in this thing, and it's so weird. Between this, the built-in restriction to NIKKEs regarding use of force on humans, and the overall incompetence of the military's efforts to retake the surface, and the lack of pre-existing rights or associated legislation, the NIKKEs made the perfect scapegoat for the common folks' gripes. You know, Captain Picard would fix this. Measure of a man, he'd fix this right up. Anti-NIKKE sentiment spiked following the failure of the first surface reclamation war, and the consequent financial recession. Taxes too high? Blame the NIKKEs for being expensive to make and maintain. Terrorist attack means the train will be late? Blame the NIKKEs for not stopping it in time. Thanks for failing, Johan. You messed everything up. 70 years before the events of the campaign, 200 mass-produced NIKKEs, frustrated by human mistreatment, boarded one of the elevators to make their own home on the surface. The central government saw it as a mass desertion and cut the elevator's power while it was 4 kilometers in the air. At that height, the elevator crashing back to the Ark would cause immeasurable damage and fatalities. The NIKKEs self-destructed, destroying the elevator and saving the Ark at the cost of their lives. I'm gonna cry. Sorry, I teared up so bad. Oh, my eyes hurt. Because they welled with tears so rapidly. Oh boy. This event would come to be known as Goddess Fall, and sparked the NIKKE civil rights movement. Following the incident, Tetraline began to run their With NIKKE promotional campaign. Sorry, I'm falling apart here with tears. Advocating for fair treatment and coexistence with NIKKEs. The elevator would be prepared as a monument to NIKKE rights. But for some reason, it never functioned properly after Goddess Fall. Additionally, this incident would scare the central government into restricting NIKKE squad size to 3 members or less, with exceptions only based on good enough reasons. Okay. Wow, 1F. That's how you feel, huh? Okay. Alright, everybody. So, tomorrow is sandwich day. 1F's gonna have his meat sandwich. Roast beef on the outside, lettuce and tomato and pickles on the inside. Alright, so, yes, Nerdiconium, whatever the heck that's about. It's so annoying. Alright, so, oh, got tears on my mouse, jeez. Alright, tomorrow's sandwich day, gonna get my Filipino fusion sandwich. Super psyched for that. I'm looking forward to it. Everybody else, make or buy a sandwich. Yep, Blue Tut Subway's good. I don't have any sandwich bread either. I only have my peanut butter toast bread, and that's not good for a sandwich. So, make or buy a sandwich. Post a picture on Discord of your sandwich. Maybe we'll vote on the best looking sandwich. And, yeah, sandwich day tomorrow for our virtual potluck dinner party, whatever you want to call it. And, tomorrow is History of Pirates. Definitely going to talk about some of the lady pirates. There were 2 lady pirates, I forgot their names. They disguised themselves as men. And then there's Granuaile, the famous Irish pirate queen. But don't worry, I won't do only them. I'll do everybody. Ooh, pesto, good stuff. Alright, everybody. I just saw... The lady pirates are also in Fate, by the way, but I can't remember their names. Alright, everybody, tomorrow... Pirates and sandwiches, because those go together. They make total sense. I'll do all the major ones for history, but then I'm obviously going to include Granuaile, because she's a badass. Alright, everybody, see you tomorrow night. Sandwiches, pirates, majram.